Uh, what kind of identifying statements do you think a client will say? Let's say anchoring. You know, like I'll take the example of what one of you posted. I've lost half my money. I had $500,000 going into 2008, June, July. By October, November, that was $250,000, right? Now, that is a lot of stuff. That's fear. That's a recency bias. That's a cognitive dissonance. What are these statements? This statement has many, many issues involved. Which one do you think it should be? It will lead to cognitive dissonance. We understand that. There is definitely a recency bias happened of late. So the investor is still smarting from this problem. If it was a good thing that they had done, they would have been glowing with pride. Now it's regret. It's very recent. Well, even 2008, because it's a large chunk. If it's a smaller chunk, it could have been something else. One of our students came by today and said, what about guaranteed products? I said, what about guaranteed products? She said, there's this product which is guaranteed 75%. And, some company, brokerage company. And it sounds good. So I said, yeah, but have you thought of yourself as what that 25% volatility, how much should a client pay for that, for accepting 25% volatility? Can you insure the portfolio, make it 95% volatile? Are you willing to do that? What if it involves options? You don't think about it, you say, oh my God, no options. But then at the same moment, you might be buying an index annuity or a structured product, like a structured annuities, fixed annuities with a 4% guaranteed rate or a 3% guaranteed rate with an upside participation, 60%, 70% upside participation market. Those index annuities are popular today. Do we know enough about them? So those are guaranteed products. How good is the company, for example? Would it be a AAA rating on Best or someone else? Look at AIG. That's a fiduciary. What are our limits? You have brought these questions up. These are very, very pertinent questions. What are our limits? How much should we know? We know we are not counselors. I don't even want to touch the literature on psychology, which has been around 200-300 years, not like 20 years like ours. I don't want to get into like Freud and Engel and Jung and Adler and people like that. Kahneman and Tversky, good for me. So what can I do with that? What if, I think it's a bias and it's getting in the way of doing my task right? What will I do? Of doing my job competently. You see that between putting together a great plan for a client and having problems, pushing them off the plate and saying, hey, act on it, implement it. That's where the cause of you engaging me. Someone pointed it out. You're paying me money. Why aren't you doing what I'm telling you to do? You'll have to hold me to task that I'm doing the best I can for you. Hold me to task, but you need to do it. What kind of commitments do we need from clients? And you brought it up. The more advanced your practice has been, some people have been in this business for 10 years, 15 years. You can say, hey, I can walk away from clients who are not willing to do this kind of stuff. For others who've been there for just 2 years or 3 years, they cannot maybe afford to lose a client. What do they do when you're building your practice? Yet there are others in this class who are thinking about this as a career change. How will you deal with clients like this? So this whole discussion today, you can see, this is the discussion topic about what do we do? Educating ourselves, educating our clients. What if the lack of education is getting in the way of you doing your job correctly? And you see it can and it does in a big sort of way. Our own biases, our own emotions, our own fears, our own greeds. We know greed is good. It's a market system. That's okay. Nothing wrong with being ambitious. But is there a line we need to draw? And how should we draw it? I've talked about drawing it with expected returns. You can draw it with volatility or expected returns or both, which is sort of like a Sharpe ratio in a sense. Or this is a sort of a maximum volatility or a minimum Sharpe ratio. which is, the risk premium over the risk, which is the volatility. That's Sharpe ratio. How much risk premium? So in the new economy, you heard about stocks right now. Can you offer 7% for stocks for long term to a client and 5% for a bond? How would you feel? Again, remember, I am a finance guy. I'm an investments person. I believe in things like asset allocation when it's done properly and rationally. But what if you have a client who's, when it's gone down and you haven't done the education, the economic cycle goes down, it dips, Some of you were in my macroeconomics class. We talked about that. What if it dips down? Economy goes down, it's a down cycle, and you lose a bunch of money, and your client comes and say, hey, get me out of these stocks. And there goes your asset allocation that you've taken so much trouble to put together. Do you put up with that? Difficult questions. Very difficult questions. Can you suggest that maybe we can have a counter? Join us. If it's problems like gambling, excessive speculation. Speculation is okay. Gambling is not. Speculation is for risk-averse investors who say, hey, I want to be compensated for speculating. I want a risk premium which is sufficient for me to take on this risk. That's speculation. That's for risk-averse people. We speculate. Provided we get compensated, we expect a compensation for taking on the risk, which is the amount of money we earn over the risk-free rate. That's my risk premium. For the volatility we have taken, what's sufficient? What's sufficient for you? At what point do you say, look, you can't do this. I cannot take you as a client. Just like a doctor says, hey, you don't want to take this medicine. Don't come back to me and complain that your problem is not going away. I don't want to even listen to it. I'll make you wait 3 hours outside if you set up another appointment with me without doing what I'm telling you to do. But what about a young doctor who's just getting on? I'm going to try and help you. How do I do that? Very, very pertinent questions, and you can see how powerful this stuff is. Yeah, give me asset allocation any day. It's much easier to do, and I can put together a very, very well-diversified portfolio which will try and optimize on Sharpe ratio. I don't have to use portfolio theory. I can use that as a starting point. I can use it as a starting point and then tweak it heuristically with my 25 years of gut feeling heuristics in doing this stuff and going to where I think the client should be to the best of my abilities. That's much easier to do than to manage what we've been talking about, because that's the difficult stuff. And I've been saying that all along. The investment stuff, the retirement planning stuff, how to put your 401k plan together, what's your, why you don't want default, all those are easy. Getting people to behave the way they should be behaving prudently and not just us is the problem. And how they behave and come out. So if you got to explain to clients, you got to take your time and explain to clients that economies go down. And when economies go down, your stocks will tank more than your bonds if you have stocks. I'll come back to your chats in a moment. I see some of you writing stuff. I'll come back to you in a moment. But that's how I would educate. I would say, look, this is what would happen. At some point in time, now the economy, let's say, goes. NPR has said that officially the recession has been over in June 2009. All right, fine. So let's say the economy turns around and it's going up and everyone's happy. No one wants to listen about the lousy stuff, the crappy stuff. Pardon my French. But nonetheless, we've got to sort of make use of this cognitive dissonance and say, we don't want to repeat what happened to you when you lost 50% of your money in bonds. So you got to listen to me, that this economy will also go down. And at that time, if this is a 30-year retirement plan, you take out your money from the equity. You do not buy and hold. So you do not get that long-term benefit of buying and holding. You take it out and put it in a CD. You're going to set yourself back 5, 10 years. I cannot help you to reach your retirement goals and visions and dreams that I'm working with. I'm like a dream planner, like a life planner for retirement is like a dream planner. We are planning the financial aspect of people's dreams in a reasonable way. And I hope you read my interview with PIMCO, with the Defined Contribution Group, because I'm saying first let's take care of what's needed in retirement. Basics. You can live with dignity, you can die with dignity. You're not on handouts from your kids or from anyone you know, friends. You're not on the streets. You've taken care of yourself and your spouse, and you can die with dignity. Yeah, you might not have a great life. You might have a small apartment and you're cooking and taking care of yourselves, but you're not asking anyone else for help. You're living with dignity, just the way we've been brought up. All right? Yeah, when we are 92 or 95, we can't do anything. Maybe our kids will put us, or we have a trust which will put us in. Our trustees and on our trust will put us into a home health care center or wherever, like a nursing home or something. But we've taken care of ourselves. That's our basic needs. Then we start thinking about add-ons, and if you don't do this, we can't help you. Yeah, and like living actually in poverty, see how it feels like. And do you want to feel like that when you're 80? We've talked about these. Can we do it? But those are realistic kinds of things that a good planner might want to think about and do. Can you get a coach, a counselor coach, and have a session for people who are having problems with this? And their problems may be internal. Have them sign off saying, I understand this is a counselor coach. And they're going to talk about our financials, not about any other mental, physical health issues. Will your legal department be okay for that? So that's how we see the evolution of practice management in the long term. All right. Will we get an archive of the web? Oh, okay, that's we have answered. Both are very important. Without the other, would probably fail. I think it's in the concept of, I'm sort of contextually, I'm sort of failing myself out here on Jacob's comment about both are very important. Both what? If you can just type up Jacob, that'll help me. Behavior versus investment. Absolutely. The art and science of financial planning, right? Both are very important. That's competency and ethics. Knowing your client as well as you can is not only an ethical issue, just like that testimony, but it's also a competency issue. So as a fiduciary, you know what's right for that client. And, you know that, if this person has problems and biases and it's coming in the way, it's your limit and you don't want to modify behavior. You may want to point it out, make sure that it's legal. You're not violating anyone's personal space in a legal way or an ethical, moral way, because we have to live with ourselves, the ethics and the morality. We have to also go to sleep, right? So make sure that it's ethical and it's competent. But that's how you develop a long-term business, is by doing both those things, just like behavior and investments are both important in this practice. You're life planners. In a sense, you're like, like I said, I like that term. You're a dream planner for retirement. Retirement is about dreams. I had a presentation, I think last week, for the Agency on Aging in Ventura County. That's where we are, Ventura County, Ventura Highway, for some of the older folks. And there were 100 people there. It's on the Area Agency on Aging, the presentation on retirement. And I was talking about these issues, about life planning and, these issues, that how difficult is our task? That do you ever think, and I put that in a posting, do clients ever realize, at least in medicine, they've got GE Medical and they've got this test and, like scans of your brains and magnetic imaging and stuff like that. What do we have? And how do we do our tasks with what we have? With our tools, like a black box, you fill in some questions, push it in, and a pie chart comes out saying this is your best optimal allocation and this is what's going to help you make your retirement. How tough is that right now to do, being in this class? But I'm hoping it is tough, and I'm pushing you But that's how next time, I hope every time you now speak with clients, your clients will start saying that they're feeling that comfort zone with you because of what you're bringing to the table. That's how important this is. Yes, Jacob, please.
One thing I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking of is how we talked about being a financial health practitioner. And one of the things I think that separates us is, like you described, going through a difficult economic downturn. If a doctor is giving you or prescribing you something and it's making you more ill or more uncomfortable, it's almost like a difference. Usually, you're probably not going to stay with that doctor. Whereas we are telling them that these things will happen, and we are still progressing in the right direction, even though it doesn't feel like that.
That's a wonderful point. So, that's a perfect example of education, the need for upfront education. Don't wait for the thing to happen. Like, you've learned in a management class about reaction versus proaction. Go headlong into your client and say, yeah, there are up cycles and down cycles. Down cycles are really tough to work with. We are in a down cycle right now. Yeah, people have lost confidence. But when it turns around, it's, people get caught in that euphoria, and it's really difficult to get them back to saying, there are difficulties and it's going to come for you too. So let's get prepared for that. And I know you don't want to hear about it when things are good. Who wants to hear about, that little nagging thing on your left knee, which might turn to osteoporosis, 30 years down the road? Let's not do something. Or even though you come to me and say, oh, doc, I'll take care of it. Yeah, but we don't have those kinds of things. So how do we work? We literally are that. We're taking care of their financial health. Not like a MD medical doctor, but their financial health, that they are in good financial health, like a health check. It is very difficult, I agree with you. And what's going through right now, they have cognitive dis of the highest order. Remember, these are depression era people. That's another wonderful thing that I think as a class, we should figure out what kind of commitment devices can we create. If any of you are entrepreneurial, just like Smart, Benartzi, and Taylor, if you get a chance, read that paper. Shlomo Benartzi and Richard Taylor. These are like leading lights in behavioral finance. Their Smart plan. If you want, I can upload the paper, their original paper on that. They built a commitment device using a bias to work for people. I think whoever pointed that out needs to be commended. That if, it is cognitive dissonance, there's a lot of it around right now. Can we put together commitment devices? Or can we write a paper on it? Wonderful paper. It's got a really good chance of getting published. Whoever that person was, I would strongly suggest that if that's an interest of yours, to write on what kind of a commitment device can you make using the SMART plan and the opt-out plan. Use the PPA Act of 2006, right? Pension Providers Act of 2006, which made opt-out and stuff rather than opt-in, which made those the law in the retirement planning, and ERISA. Use the same kind of thing. Can we develop devices? I've got an entrepreneur in me. You've heard of AgeBander and stuff, I know, and other stuff that I make. And I would like to sort of invite you. That is the kind of person we would like to have as alumnus. Distinguished people like you guys. You're going to be distinguished alumnus down the road. And we hope that this is the way you'll think about it. All right. So think about what you're doing. Education. Educating yourself. How much can you educate yourself? What are the limits of a fiduciary? Yes, knowing right products. It is a fiduciary requirement because you might be managing money or helping people manage their monies on a fee-only basis or whatever. Or what about their behaviors? What if it's getting in the way? What do you do with that? How do you help the client overcome their biased emotions without being a counselor? So resistance from clients. Think about it. What kind of people do clients listen to? Who are their centers of influence, We all have centers of influence. We listen to people more than others, some people, because we think they're smart or what, for whatever reason. Informal group dynamics. The people who get together for lunch at work or around the coffee machine, but they may be at 3 or 4 different levels in the organization. One could be a 30-year-old practitioner hanging around with a 4-year-old acting very sage, someone like me, You'd expect me to do stuff like that. But informal groups, and there's an informal group leader in there. They are much more powerful than a group leader, which is a formal group, like in organizations. And it's, all right, this is the VP of marketing, and she or he knows everything about marketing except for their supervisor. Whatever she or he says, you listen to them. That's a formal group. Informal groups are very powerful. You went through group dynamics. What are the group dynamics? Why couldn't some groups take off sooner than others? What happened there? What's leadership? What's power? How do you get power? You said resistance from clients. What is the theory of power? Power means someone is dependent on you. That's where power comes from, is dependency. How would a client, how would you have power in a nice sense, ethical and competent sense? By providing ethical and competence, just like a doctor. They'll never leave you. They'll never leave you. Once you find a good doctor, how much do we cling on to a good doctor? And when we have a bad doctor, like the one where we keep getting, our illness isn't going away, how desperate do we get to listen to people telling us, hey, I know a really good doctor who can take care of you. We need to feel maybe their confidence, who are the people who they're listening to, maybe bring them in or to understand how they're thinking so you can replicate some of the stuff. What's our limits? For some of you, you have large books. You're managing maybe $200 million, $300 million, $500 million in your book. I don't know how big. I know there are students in our program who manage $500 million. For you, hey, you can walk away from a client and say, hey, I don't need to deal with that. What about someone who's just building their books and they've got like $5 million under management? And they're generating like $5,000 a year or something from that. Or hopefully a bit more, $20,000. And they need to make $80,000, $100,000 to make it work for their families. What do they do? How do they develop their practices? And so, that's what you see. So if you refer them, if they listen to you, you're a center of influence. If they don't listen to you and they don't listen to your referral, then it's not. Imagine how important a referral is. You refer to your friend and your friend is not competent or ethical. What does that do to your practice? So you need to vet out people as to say, hey, what do you know? Yeah, you're a good friend of mine, but are you going to take care of my client the right way? Do you understand the suitability of products? And which is a tall subject, right? Investments, it's a tall subject, suitability. I've sort of butted heads, pardon my expression, with the head of SEC. What's her name? Mary Shapiro. I've told her, registered reps don't know it. On their Series 7, 80% is on legality, on how to protect yourself if a client comes up. The 20% on investments is like all the jargon. So you know the talk, you know how to talk the talk, but not walk the walk. What kind of an exam is it? And you leave it to the wirehouses to train for suitability. And then the wirehouses sell this stuff. This is where you are going to make the commissions, which is going to feed your family and cover your mortgages. Use other stuff like term life and stuff, you're out of here. You didn't meet your production quotas. How do you live with that? When you're offering products, you have to be sure that's the best product, given the risk. How much risk can your client take? I think that's connected with that statement we read earlier. That's understanding the whole package. They want to sleep at night, just like you do too, confident in their belief that their finances are well taken care of. Just like if you have a good doctor, even though you have some illness, you know the medicine is working. It's long-term, it's slow, it's a tough disease, could be a chronic disease, but it's under control. And your quality of life is getting back where you want it to be. So you can go back to sleep. We know finances are keeping up people. I'd love to see, I think one of you, and I really don't want to take names, but you'll know from this, from one of the groups, I was asking about starting a checklist, a different checklist about health and financial. That's a wonderful research subject downstream for people who might want to study this. Someone who's connected with a hospital. I'd love to have access to data on this stuff from your clients. If we put together a survey, can we have our alumni send it out to our clients and make sure that they understand it's totally anonymous? There's no way we can trace it. Can we have them do something like that and fill in? Because most of our alumni and current students, I'm assuming, are servicing clients at a mid to higher level of income and wealth. And many of those people are suffering from the 2008 crisis. Can we understand what kind of health problems? Because that would be a wonderful study. It's an addition to the profession. You've seen me comment in some of my comments that this would be a wonderful addition to the profession. If you follow on those lines, if you do a study or a research or a paper and publish it, my feeling is, of course, I cannot guarantee any, but I've been reading this stuff and writing on this stuff for a long time, and my feeling is that's a space which will get you attention from really good places if you can do studies like that. Really good attention. That's where you'll get the clients. Put it as a what do you call it, a post, op-ed piece in your local newspaper, local rag. Put it in as an op-ed piece. Submit it to the local newspaper or the local business newspaper. That's how you get clients. There's a big fight going on right now at the FPA blog. I'm a blogger there. And they're saying, we want copyright. And people are saying, forget it. I don't want to give you copyright. I get, a lot of good clients from my writing. And you're saying that FPA will get my writing and I can't use it? I don't want to sign up for that. And rightfully so. So understand the power of education through publishing and publishing locally. Right? That's practice management. Long-term practice management. These are the lines I want you to think in. Next time I do macroeconomics for investments, that's what we'll do. We'll look at the hardcore business cycles and investment strategy. I have a presentation on retirement. Someday maybe I'd like to do that. On retirement income distribution and macroeconomics. Right? I did this in the Seattle convention in 2007. Recently I had this meeting with ING people, their retirement. Now they're calling this sequence risk. Sequence risk is if you retire on a down business cycle, what do you do? People are saying, all right, you take out 4% a year every year. And I'm traveling all over the field out here. You can see that. So if you want to ask questions or talk with me, just raise your hand or type it in. But, if you're on a down cycle, people have said, all right, you withdraw 4% a year. All right. And that's 25 years plus your earnings, and you should be fine. All right. If you look at the rates of return over a 5-year period rather than an individual year period, the annual rates of return on a down cycle, you can have a negative 3% return per year over a 5-year cycle. All right, you lose 3% over 5 years. That's a down cycle, typical down cycle, 3% per year. So you are retiring near the peak of the business cycle. Business cycle goes down. Your advisor has said, take out 4% a year. And you're getting hit 3% a year on the down cycle. At the end of the 5th year, your decumulations or income distributions have amounted, along with the market downturn, to a loss of 40% of your retirement fund. And you're just 70 years old now, and you're looking at another 15, 20 years, and you have 60% money left. What do? How do you make such a decision? Macroeconomically, what do? Investment, that's a different issue. Macroeconomically and investment-wise, that's an issue you want to think about. How do you smooth income over time? Because if you're in a down cycle, you had an up cycle before that. Otherwise, there's no meaning of down cycle. Did you capture any excess returns during this time? You were expected to make 8%. You made 10% a year for 3 years. Did you capture that excess return and move it to the future times so that when times turn around, you can bring that up and smooth your income saying, hey, we're not that bad off. We protected some of our extra earnings from before and we are taking care of your down cycle now. That's investment management. And you should be able to do that too. Understanding it. How do we do stuff like that? You need to understand that's how we build our practice. And the thing is, some of them will require derivatives. And derivatives were built for risk management, not for speculation. Most clients don't want that. I have an article. If you search for me, search me on insuring your investment portfolio. So Google me, Somnath Basu, insuring your investment portfolio. You'll pull up an article on this. It's showing up in many places. And read it. It's about putting together your own products which help guarantee some amount of minimized loss guarantees, like insurance. How do you insure your portfolio that you can't lose more than 7% in a single year, or 10% or whatever? How do you do stuff like that? Because that's advanced practice management. All right, let me turn this over now to Mr. Blake Freeman. And Mr. Blake Freeman, I know it's like joke time, but it's serious business you're managing. I understand the jokes and lotteries. I'm good for that. But I also understand that this is very serious stuff. When you're managing someone else's life savings. So please take it over.
Thanks. I was curious, it seems like just hearing you discussing the topics that the field is clearly still growing and it's definitely being worked on in academic circles. In your experience, how much resources or energy is being placed in this field by the big wirehouses and by the INGs of the world or the PIMCOs or the Merrill Lynches? How much are, for us being in the field, how much emphasis are we going to see by those forces in the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay, got it. And it's a good question again. Here's the thing. Financial planning, the body of literature of knowledge is very, very new, very young, and very small. The body that has really grown in the past of literature has been in finance and investments. And the academics have been serious. Financial planning has not been considered a serious vocation for academics. Still is not. There's only one PhD program in the country. And that too it's from agriculture department or family financials or home economics at Texas Tech. It's not a business school. You go to NYU Stern, they won't teach this. NYU Professional Studies will teach it. You go to Anderson School at UCLA, they won't teach it. The UCLA Extension will teach it. And academics have stayed away. The money at Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley and all the wirehouses has gone towards the investment stuff, not for the individual financial planning stuff. So academics go there. Academics move with the tune of money like anyone else. So most of the research has gone there, which is why there's it's a green field, research in this field and getting yourself known. And it's going to take a long time for academics. It's like, I want to say hardcore academics, like business academics. Some Ag-Econ or family finances, I know hardcore. I'd like to see hardcore academics from the social sciences side, like Daniel Kaufman and Amos Tversky. These people coming in from the side, or Vernon Smith, the co-winner of Nobel Prize. He's a hardcore academic, very, very hard on the quantitative side, but he went totally on the qualitative side. Not totally, but he went on the qualitative side, on the behavior side. It's going to take time for this stuff to filter down to the individual financial planning level. So you are pretty much, left to the mercy of what's best practices. And this is a class I can I hope you guys are not going to go. You're visiting Cognitrend, unexpected utility. It's a behavioral finance firm in Germany. I'm trying to get their CEO to come next week or on October 2nd to make a presentation to this class. But it's out of Germany. It's a behavioral finance company. It provides behavioral financial signals to companies as to when to restructure portfolios, what are the signals, behavioral signals, and so on. So it is a company which is making money out of behavioral finance. And I'm okay with that as long as the material is good. And what I've been told by our blog advisor, which is Kath Fincher, some of you may know Catherine Fincher, the material is really good on their side as well. And they think our material is great. So I'd love to see you guys start posting your thoughts. Take a discussion and post it at unexpectedutility.com. And do it anonymously for anyone who has compliance issues. Just do it as student K or student A. I can see student F as student, student B, student Barkley, student G, student Gerlich, student P, student Pelachik, student P, student P2, if there's a second person with a P last name. Do it anonymously, but start writing. Write for yourselves. Good stuff, but it's going to take time to filter to individual level, these kinds of things. That's why I'm sort of like in a hurry to get you guys involved and saying, hey, grab this stuff before someone else does. Do a piece and publish it. Publish it in Financial Advisor magazine, Financial Planning magazine. Publish it in Employee Benefit News magazines. They'll publish stuff on retirement. Publish on Investment Advisor magazine. Publish in Investment News. These are not academic journals. These are practitioner journals. Bank Information Consultant. That's another journal. Look at Source Media and what's the other? There's another media group. Lots of financial stuff. If any of you know Charlie Herbert, he's one of our colleagues. He works for one of these media companies on the financial side. Write and submit to these people. Get yourself be known. Because that's how you'll add to this profession. There's too few academics who are still in this field, and we need more. But that doesn't mean that you cannot be academics. You can pick up a subject, as much research as you want to, and we will work with you on that. The Institute is big on that. I'm working with one of our fellowship. We have a fellowship. I'm working with a person called Steve Vernon. You might have seen him off and on. Steve Vernon is a blogger on CBS Money Watch on money and happiness. And when it's done, I'm going to share it with you. And I'd like to sort of follow up in 2010 how people's thoughts on money and happiness changed from 2007 when that last one was done. And it's a behavioral finance research paper. And I work with students, just like you saw my paper earlier with Hovik Chalian. Hovik is an alumnus of this program. He was a student like you, and he got published. And now you can prepare. Ask the publisher to give you up your publication, and you can hand it out to your students. Not students, sorry, clients. Hand it out to your clients because they love to see their advisor getting media attention. That's a very good marketing business card. You know that. If you've got they'll put Financial Advisor magazine on the top, and then they'll put your article maybe with your picture on it. And you hand that out to a client. It's part of your portfolio that you give to present and potential clients. This is who you are. All right. Please keep talking. You understand this stuff, I think we have talked out. That's okay too. That's okay. We are talked out. We've had some wonderful discussions. There's more, we know, but this never ends. And I'm really happy. I really want you guys. I have 9 of you captive out here. I really want you guys. And if you are going to listen to the end in archives, I hope all of you do it. I would love to have you guys comment on this class in your emails. I want all of you to please fill it in. And I'd like to, ask you guys to volunteer to poke each other to fill it in and tell me what did I do right and what did I do wrong. so I can build on this class, and you guys can say, hey, we had that class with Dr. Basu too, and put that and say, hey, we got our good foundation here. That's how we know what we know, and build on that. So please give me your suggestions. You're the first class that I've ever taught on this subject. But you can see I've done a lot of work, and I'm going to keep doing a lot of work. I'm doing a lot of work right now as we speak. I've got 4 or 5 projects on this field, and I'm going to do a lot more. So I really need your feedback, constructive. Don't worry, don't hold back. You say, pardon my French again, but Dr. Basu, you sucked at this thing. Don't do this again. Get rid of the group discussion and stuff like that. Do it. Do it. It's anonymous, right? Not to worry about it. I won't take offense. After 25 years of evals, I don't take any offense. It's my way to learn and make my classes better. So just sort of don't pull punches. Good stuff too. I don't mind listening to it. This is a class you feel good, not like my investment class, where you don't feel good during the class. Feel good 5 years down the road. Ask Hovig. He can tell you. He was in my class. He took that class 2 times because it was so tough. And it was a brick and mortar classroom. Harry does the same thing. When you have Harry, and in 591, 593, you'll get grilled there too. So not to worry about it. That, we are shaping the program as to what you should know as master student. When you go out and talk with another MBA student with a finance background who has taken an investment course, your body of knowledge and their body of knowledge, no matter which school they're from, is about the same. All right? And that's how we want to build this program. That's how we want to build you. One financial planner at a time, like you guys say, one client at a time and stuff like that. One financial advisor at a time. We want to build you guys. And this is how I think we should be doing it. You tell us. You tell me and tell us how we are doing. Question, running out of time. But behavior will exceed them. We will have to teach them. Yeah, to the lottery ticket. Yeah, you're teachers. I would love to see you guys teaching in your local programs. After you get your MBA, we are connected with other programs around the country. Start teaching for them. I see a lot of good teaching potential amongst you guys. I see your comments. You would be very good teachers. The money is not good, but it's a great way for you to be known in your community. Wherever you are, you let us know of your interest. Send us a resume. When you're done, get your CFP. Make sure you pass the CFP exam, all right? Get your CFP, get your MBA, and then write to us saying, get registered in the alumni portal, because that's where we're going to do a lot of the stuff. And then say, all right, I'm in the Charlotte area where there's Queens College, or I'm in NYU. I'm around the NYU area, and then Steve, I don't know Steve's last name anymore, but he's a really good friend of mine. He runs the NYU program. I pretty much know most of the programs around the country. They'd love to have you guys teaching for them. And I'll vouch for you personally. So when you're ready, come, because you need to teach. And you not only need to teach your clients, but you also want to teach people and students. That's how we pass along our heritage and our legacies. It's not just our estates, but it's also our knowledge and our wisdoms. We want to pass that along too. It brings value to the people who are following us.